Hey, boys and girls. So, this is our last video for today. I told you I would change my hat. I'm sitting outside so I could listen to the birds and kind of get in the mood for Super Magazine. That's wild. So, we're going to go through it together on the screen, on the video, and then you can either read it again from the video by pausing it, or you can open Super Kids Online Fun. The magazine you're looking for is Unit 15. It has a bear on the front and says, "That's wild." Today's story is about Jane Goodall and her work with chimpanzees. She did it a special way for back when she did it. She spent 25 years in the wild with the chimpanzees and took notes and interacted with them, and they really started to trust her and act the way they would act when there was no person around. That's a big difference from scientists that worked in zoos because zoos are not natural and animals act differently when they're in a like a caged in area. Even if it's open, they can't do what they would normally do out in the wild and go wherever they want. So we're going to listen to it. I'm going to let the computer read it for you as long as it works, and then I'll stop and talk along the way. Then there'll be questions that go with it. So listen for what she learned when she was in the wild with the chimps. See how this works. All of Team Sup is working at the same time today, so it's a little bit busy on the internet over here. That wasn't too bad. I just have to get to the right spot. It should be the cover page, and then if it takes me to the table of contents, perfect. So we go to Friends in the Wild. It is on page 6. We're going to listen to the man read to us. And like I said, if I want to pause it, talk a little science along the way or some comprehension, I will. At the end, you can watch it and read it on here, or you can open Super Kids Online Fun. So here's Jane Goodall, and here's our little chimpanzee baby. Let's see who is who in here.
Friends in the Wild. Jane Goodall stepped outside of her tent deep in the African jungle. She heard a rustling in the brush. A tiny chimpanzee crawled into view. It was Flint, a baby chimp she had been studying. Jane crouched down and reached out her hand. Slowly, Flint reached out his little hand to meet hers. Jane smiled. She loved her job. Jane was one of the first scientists to live with chimps in the wild. Other scientists studied chimps in zoos. Jane studied them in the wild because she wanted to learn how they lived and behaved in their natural home. Over time, the chimps learned that Jane was their friend. She was able to get close enough to see things no other scientists had seen. Jane spent more than 25 years studying chimps in the wild. Because of her work, we know important things about chimps. Turn the page to meet some of the chimps she studied. So
she did really important work, and she did it in the wild. That's the big thing, because she was able to see the chimps do things, and they'll talk about it on the next page, that no one else had ever seen. And she was able to take notes and then bring that back and really expand on what we knew about chimpanzees and about primates in the wild in general, about apes. So let's turn the page and listen. Too far. Always reminds me of Tinkerbell. Disney on the brain. Let's see, is it gonna work? It wants to work. While it loads, um, we can talk about where she is. She was in Africa. We remember Africa is one of the 7 continents. And while she was there, she had a small group she was with, but it really was just kind of living in the jungle. And she took notes on paper and wrote in journals. And it was all things that today we would probably do on computers and record with different types of screens. But she just used regular old cameras and also just wrote in a notebook. Let's see if it's going to show up. We're hopeful that it shows up. My internet is being cuckoo crazy today. It's not going to work. Let's see if I can switch it over to something else. It would be these pages. So I will read it to you. I'm going to have to zoom in a little bit. Jane lived in a tent in the jungle. Only a few helpers and her family lived there with her. There were many dangers in the wild. Baboons stole food from the camp. Dangerous buffalo and leopards lived nearby. Poisonous insects and snakes came into her tent. When it rained, poisonous insects and snakes came into her tent when it rained because they found a dry spot. But Jane thought it was all worth it to be near the chimps. Scientists used to think that only humans could make and use tools. Jane proved that's not true. Chimps made their own tools too. In fact, chimps used more objects as tools than any other animal except for humans. A male chimp named Gremlin used a twig as a tool to get food. He peeled the leaves off the twig and stuck it into a mound of dirt where termites lived. Then he ate the termites, using the twig as a spoon. So he put it in the hole and then he ate them off the stick. Bugs on a stick. Jane learned that chimps help each other. She observed a chimp named Melissa helping her friend Gimbal by picking bugs out of her fur. Chimps also show friendship by hugging, kissing, and sharing food. Jane saw that the chimps sometimes fought with each other over who should be the leader of the group. She also noticed that chimps had many ways to offer comfort to one another. After a chimp named Goblin got into a fight with the other chimps, his friend Frodo patted him on the back. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so I can see the whole thing. And then, let's see. Good. This part says, many years have passed since Jane started studying chimps. Today, she travels around the world to teach people about chimps. She tells listeners that chimpanzees are smart. They have families. They have friends and enemies. In short, chimps are a lot like people. These are the things Jane couldn't have learned studying chimps one-on-one in a zoo. Scientists have learned from Jane's work. Today, many scientists study animals the way she did. Thanks to Jane, we know more about how wild animals really live. So sorry if I zoomed in on my face, but I couldn't see it on my screen. So what she did, she really went out and she got right in where the chimps are. Imagine just going and living where there was nothing except jungle. She was very, very much a part of the jungle. She had tents and tree houses, and she climbed and she laid in trees, and she did all these things to learn as much as she could, and she brought it back. And scientists learned, if we want to learn about these wild animals, we really have to go out. and be with the wild animals in the wild. You can't put something in a cage or in a fenced in area and expect it to act normally. I mean, think about the things you see at the zoo. They stay right close to the edge. They don't often kind of go out. And things like Disney and other safaris have tried to recreate wild areas, but it's still not 100% the way the animals would live. So science owes a lot to Jane Goodall. And she got to hang out with cute little chimps like the one hanging on her neck. So go back, read this to yourself, either on the screen by making it larger or open Super Kids Online Fun and go to the magazine and then answer the questions. Okay? Nice job, friends. Like I said, today is Friday. You're almost done working. Have a fantastic weekend. And I will see you guys on Monday. All right? Bye, friends.